I feel like I'm out here almost every day now sharing basically what amounts to impossible situations, economic situations, people's financial state and their situations, the government's financial situation, the debt levels, the defaults, that these aren't problems that can just easily be solved or swept away. I'm going to share a story with you today out of Money Watch. CBS talks about how basically more and more Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. We've discussed that before, but that the vast majority basically will not be able to retire. Before I jump into that story, quickly this morning out of Yahoo Finance, Reuters, Challenger J and Christmas came out with some data that I thought, and again, this is the backdrop in part for why the end result is going to be ugly for those that don't have a substantial nest egg set aside to retire or to be able to put together, amass a retirement nest egg or plan. Employers so far this year have announced 946,426 job cuts. That's the highest to date since 2020. And in 2020, you know how many layoffs were taking place because of the pandemic and things were shutting down, right? The sky was falling, so people's jobs were getting cut en masse. Here's the next stat. Hiring, so we have the layoff announcements are the highest since the pandemic, the start of the pandemic, and hiring plans so far this year have totaled 204,939. That's the lowest year to date since 2009. What was going on in 2009? That was the United States, the country just emerging from the Great Recession, right? So let those statistics sink in, obviously on top of the fact that, well, what the article says, we have a stagnating labor market right now. We also, as discussed often on this show, we have a stagnated housing market. We have AI coming in and taking a fair amount of jobs. This article says that the AI surge has cost most jobs so far in the technology sector, 107,878 layoffs so far this year. But I believe that's probably going to expand into many other sectors of employment and jobs. So with that backdrop, let me jump into the story about retirement basically becoming or is a thing of the past. Before I start, as I always humbly ask, please hit the subscribe button for me if you're not subscribed to the channel so we can keep growing this community. Okay, I do appreciate all of you. So this is entitled, again, out of CBS News Today, More Americans Are Living Paycheck to Paycheck, Putting Retirement Out of Reach, this report finds. It says, while many Americans want to save money, they want to put away money for retirement, it's out of reach because more workers are living paycheck to paycheck, according to a new Goldman Sachs study. 42% of younger working Americans, that's Gen Z, Millennials, and Gen X, report having zero spare savings after covering their basic living expenses. Among those just getting by, 75% said they're struggling to save for retirement, the survey found. It says the share of U.S. workers in this precarious financial position has grown significantly since the year 1997. At that point, 31% said they live paycheck to paycheck, according to Goldman. And now it is 43%? 42%. So it's jumped from 31% to 42% in that span of time. Listen to this. The investment bank projects that figure could climb to well over half of Americans by 2033 as essentials like housing and healthcare continue to rise in cost. So the point is, to my opening comments, this is not going to dissipate. This disaster, if you will, for lack of a better word, the fact that retirement is going to simply become impossible for many, maybe more than half in this country, within the next few years, according to this article. The findings underscore the challenges millions of Americans now face just making ends meet, while also managing to set aside money for retirement. Goldman Sachs calls this financial pinch a financial vortex. The money crunch, it says, helps explain why more than a quarter, or 25% of older Americans are nearing retirement now without anything saved. A gap that could widen, I'm saying it will widen, given the financial pressures facing younger workers. And as we talk about all the time on the shows, those financial pressures with the onslaught of AI, the stagnant economy, the more firings, less hirings, is only going to get worse. So, what the article says is telling workers just to save more ignores the realities that they face. Skipping a latte, it says, or avocado toast isn't likely to make much of a dent in the financial dynamics that the workers face today, because basic expenses have skyrocketed. Here's some more stats that doesn't surprise me, but it's amazing. Homeownership now eats up 51% of income. That's up from 33% in the year 2000. While healthcare costs account for 16% of after-tax earnings. That's up from 10% a quarter century ago. So it says the mounting challenges that American workers face make it harder than ever to save for retirement. It says now in closing, now 45 to 60-year-olds, almost half of them say they believed it would take a miracle for them to be able to retire. A Natixis study found last year. So, again, I'd like to get your thoughts and comments on this, because we know that debt levels are rising. We know that people's situations, as the stats confirm, as we talk about all the time, is kind of getting worse and worse. People are getting themselves deeper in the hole. And so, leave me your thoughts and comments. I mean, is the concept of retirement a day that you simply say, I'm done working, I have enough set aside in assets that I can cover myself, have a good quality of life for my remaining years? And don't forget, Social Security. People say, well, Social Security, will be there. Number one, I've shared with you the Social Security, by the government statistics, is probably going to be cut substantially by the year 2033 or so, and it's not going to be there forever, okay? Not to mention, Social Security does not, for most, I would say, cover their living expenses. So as expenses continue to rise, Social Security, and cost of living increases are not keeping up with the pace of insurance costs, living costs, all those other things that are being heaped on the pile. So it's like a double whammy, triple whammy. I don't know what's the answer. Obviously the answer is, hey, if you're not in this situation, then you are more fortunate than many, many millions of people in this country, because we know that this is not going to just simply reverse course. So again, back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, I want to get your thoughts and comments on this. What is the solution? I guess it's kind of like this daunting question. What's the solution for, paying off, $37 trillion of, government debt, right? What's the solution for reversing, the increased costs of healthcare? What's the solution for reversing the completely locked up and frozen housing market right now? What's the solution for all of a sudden employers in the face of AI and other challenges deciding that they're going to ramp up their hiring plans? Again, I hate to be so negative with it, but it's one of those things where when you start to wrap your mind around the macro of it, it's daunting. All right. So again, where are you at, and what are your thoughts on this? I don't want to run too long today. If you enjoy the content, please leave me a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Leave your thoughts on these topics as always. And with that being said, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.